We are now at the halfway point of the 2025-2026 season. Adam will check in to see what Vegas got horribly wrong. Andrew will take a look at the Orlando Magic and Memphis Grizzlies, who are currently overseas. And then Andrew and I will have a talk about James Najee and the fast, slow death of the NCAA.
This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
All right, welcome to the NBA Team Podcast. I'm Adam Murray. All right, we are halfway through the season. Whoa, we're halfway there. And we have some teams who are living on a prayer. Oh, you see what I did there. Okay, so we're at 41 games for most of the teams. A couple are, it's really weird. A couple are at like 43, a couple are at like 38 still. But more or less, everybody's there. So I'm going to take a quick look to see who Vegas was really off about and who still has a chance to hit their over. So we're going to start out west. We knew the Thunder, the Rockets, and the Nuggets were all going to be up top, and we knew Utah and New Orleans and in theory, Phoenix was supposed to be on the bottom, but it's very tough out there. So any game is possible. I'm going to start off with the Utah Jazz, whose over and under were 18 and a half. They currently have 14 wins. So you'd be like, oh yeah, they only got to win 5 more the rest of the season. That's totally easy. Anybody could do it. But we know they're going to tank, and we know they've actually gotten punished for tanking and openly tanking. So they're not out of the woods yet. Another quick surprise. Vegas was very down on Phoenix. They had 30 and a half. They're currently at 24, so they're going to hit that easily. Other teams, we're not going to talk about New Orleans and Sacramento. Actually, no, let me talk about New Orleans. Their over and under was pretty bad at 30 and a half. They only have 9 wins right now at the halfway point. So they only have to really hit 500 ball. And it's not impossible to do, but they are kind of a mess, and I don't expect that to happen. Portland has been overachieving. They have 19 wins projected for 34 and a half. They only got to go 16 and 25. They don't own their pick if it falls outside the top 8, so they might get tanktastic real fast. You never know. Memphis is kind of where we expected. They're at the 17 win mark. In order to get to 40 and a half, they got to go 23, 22, 23, and 18. Not out of the realm of possibilities, but as Andrew will talk about, they kind of are a mess, so I don't expect that. Overachieving San Antonio, 28 wins already. Got to go 16 and 25 at the end. I think that's easily doable. Now, living on a prayer, we have the Clippers, who started off god-awful. Went on this really hot streak lately. Their over and under was 47 and a half. They're obviously not going to go, 31 and 10 or 30 wins to wrap it out, but they might have figured it out where they can get into the playoff games and then play-ins, and then once you get in, that's all you need to do, as we've seen. I spent a lot of the offseason talking about the Lakers and Golden State and how they both can't sort of be kings of the hill. And they kind of are where we expected them. The Lakers need to have 23 wins to hit their 46 mark. And then Golden State needs to have 25 more wins at the end. And in the West, I don't think both of those teams can do it. Both of those teams have fatal flaws. One being a $60 million player, and the rest of the team who doesn't play defense, but they can't make any moves because of a $60 million player. The other team just has a coach who doesn't want to play any of their young guys, and their old guys aren't doing anything. Elsewhere in the West, there was talk, can Oklahoma City break the all-time record? Got 34 wins. They got to go 29 and 12 at the end to hit their 62 and a half. That's kind of where it looks like they're going to be, because they're starting to drop some games and whatnot. Houston needs to go 30. They got to win 31 or 32 more games to hit their 55 mark. I don't want to say they're underachieving, but the record doesn't really reflect where. Again, they were picked very high. Once they made the Durant trade, their over went kind of I believe it started at 52, if I'm not mistaken, and went up to 55. Well, it went up and then went down because of the Van Fleet injury, and then Durant sort of alleviated all that, like he would have been the miracle. Now in the East, I think everybody overestimated the East. I We knew it would be bad, but I don't think we thought it would be this bad. I want to start from the top down because I don't. We know the bottom is bad and they're going to be bad. Cleveland had an over under at 56. We know they're dysfunctional. They only got 22 at the break. We know they're not going to go 35-6 at the end, but they were projected to be the top. New York was supposed to be second. They got 25 wins, putting them up right behind Detroit at the top. They got to go 28-13, and with Brunson perhaps missing some time, they're a completely different team without him. I don't like that. Orlando, Atlanta, Milwaukee, very dysfunctional. All got to go basically 27 or 28 wins. Got to win every 2 out of 3 on the way out. Atlanta is definitely not going to do it because Porzingis hasn't been healthy, unfortunately, and they have no. You get rid of Trey, and McCollum might be moved, and nobody else. They're sort of just waiting for the next deal to happen. We mentioned Milwaukee, and we have Doc Rivers blaming injuries. Really, what else can he blame? You can't. You're not going to call out your players because that means that's it. That's sentence for you because they're going to just tune you out and you're done. You can't blame the GMs for making this team what they are and being unable to put a team around Giannis every year. And it's really not their fault. If Lillard was here and he didn't get injured at the end, it would be a different and you have a different outlook. But now it's just so much uncertainty. And you can't say it was a terrible move getting Miles Turner. Well, his stats are down. And if you just only look at the box score, well, yeah, he also had Halliburton throwing him lobs every game. It's a completely different team. It's not like he's a negative asset, unlike Kuzma, who you know what he can do. You just never see it sort of fully happen every time. And then Orlando, you have injuries. There's a team that can blame injuries for everything, but I don't know how far they're going to go if they get everybody back and on the same page because they don't appear to have everybody back ever. They never seem to be always healthy. Therefore, you can't always get everybody on the same page. But we will see if they can put it together. Detroit, the feel-good story of the year. Their over and under was 45, so they just got to manage everything. And Philly and Miami are the two teams I had gone be saying they could win 50 or they can win 25, and I would not be surprised. Miami currently has 21 wins. Their over-under was 39.5. They only got to go 19-22. You have no way to tell if they could go 19-22, 22-19, 9-20, whatever, or 29 whatever. They could literally go any which direction. The same goes for Philly. They looked like they had figured it out, but their record doesn't reflect it. Yeah, they were put at 42, which was, yeah, what are they? I don't know. They might be above 500. Currently, they got 22 wins. They got to play 500 ball on the way out. That's kind of where we thought they would be. And for the most part, Embiid has been healthy this year, and George has been present. He's not the player he was, obviously, but when you have the team who's going to guards now, the two big men are sort of just, well, we're here. Toronto is another overachieving team. They were picked 36.5. They're currently at 24, so they just got to go win 13 games, which even they could do, especially in the East. Chicago had started out hot, but we had said their over and under was super low at 32. You got 19 already. As for the rest, Washington on pace. Who would have thought? Over and under was 28.5 first half of the season. They're at the 10-win mark right now. And you got to win 21, so they got to do is just do exactly what they've been doing. Wow. They were pegged correctly. And then, unfortunately, there is Indiana, who loses a star player. Their Center goes and they replace him with Jay Huff and nobody else. And you seem surprised when they have 9 wins. Like, this is like, I don't want to say a masterclass in tanking. Like, they don't look like they're tanking. And we know by going to the finals, everyone else is better than they are. So, yeah, it just seems like they're going for a top 3 pick, but not making it look like they're going for a top 3 pick. Very, very sneaky. So that's where we are, how teams are related to their Vegas. Obviously, they were wrong on Phoenix. That is the one that sort of sticks out with everything. Because you can't, injuries and the master class of tanking of Indiana, I'd say that, yeah, you're wrong on them because we know they're an overachieving team. And to see them underachieve so hardcore, kind of surprising. Other than that, yeah, this is the slow volley part of this season. After the deadline, yeah, we get serious. Teams are going to be out of the playoffs are going to go tanktacular quite fast, aka Dallas. Teams who are going to make a push and we want to get out of the playing game. We want to be in a nice top 6. We're obviously in the West. We're not going to know probably till the last week who the top, maybe even, spots 3 through 8 might be. It's that jumbled up and things can change quite fast. But yeah, in summation, I don't know how Vegas got a very high number on Sacramento when everyone goes, this might be the worst team in the NBA. And there are bad teams in the NBA. Maybe, now that Sabonis is coming back, they might pick up some games. And who knows? You could give they're desperate enough to make a trade. They're buyers when they should not be. I don't know why they're buyers, but that's why they're the Sacramento Kings. Coming up next, we got Andrew's going to talk about the Magic and the Grizzlies. Stay tuned.
The NBA is not logical. It's logical in terms of box score. Yes, there's a winner, there's a loser, there's field goal percentages, but there are some things from a management standpoint and from a game standpoint, especially from a player interaction standpoint, that don't make any sense. And it leads to a lot of the moving and shaking that you're seeing going on. I joke about me and Adam having friction. Sometimes friction's good. Sometimes you need that discourse. Sometimes you need somebody who doesn't see things on the same page as you, or they have a different perspective on things. It doesn't keep you with blinders on, because if you got to have a good, fresh, all-around perspective. Sometimes when you have those disagreements, a good idea is to just have a nice, brief getaway type of vacation. I need a break. And, we have 2 teams that have had issues. They have had friction. And they went on, and they had already planned this before the season even began. This was already scheduled by the NBA right around the summertime, that the Orlando Magic and the Memphis Grizzlies were going to go on a European tour. They were going to do one in Berlin, Germany. And then a couple days later, in the month of January, they were going to go to London, England. The teams just coincidentally, it turned out to be kind of, I don't know if it was the perfect time to try to get away from everything, or it was the not so perfect time to have them all clumped up in the same charter flights and team hotels and clusters and gymnasiums and locker rooms. Because we all know about the stuff involving John Morant, his unhappiness with the coaching, how Taylor Jenkins was fired, his argument with Thomas Solo, the new coach. There had been all these rumblings about him being traded, about what his value is, and whether or not it was being tanked on purpose. And the Magic also, before I get back to Memphis, because Memphis obviously created the most headlines, Orlando had some friction too. There was clearly issues between the head coach Jamal Mosley and Paolo Banchero, the star, where they were sort of taking shots at each other in post-game news conferences. It was really predicated by the fact that Franz Wagner was hurt, or Franz and Paolo, when they play together, they're a really good team, obviously, but there was a stretch there where they were struggling. Paolo went out with an injury, and with Franz and Anthony Black playing really well, he had a great dunk in the Berlin game. Like some people call it the dunk of the year. I think it was apropos because it was a Euro dunk in Europe. Get it? Paolo Banchero and Jamal Mosley weren't seeing eye to eye. I don't know the exact nature of it, but it probably has to do a lot with the fact that he wanted a little bit more freedom to be able to take his shots. He has not been shooting the ball well this season. Franz just came back. I think he had been gunning to come back for the Germany trip anyway, because he's from there, so he wanted to play in that game. He had messed up his ankle really bad about a month ago. A lot of people thought he tore his ACL because it looked so bad, but it turned out to just be a really bad ankle sprain. He's back. They played well without Paulo, and they played, in my opinion, fairly well without Franz. Is one guy better than the other? Probably not. I would say that the teams are equal if you have just one star and not the other. Without both, they're terrible. I would say they're probably not even a playoff team. I like Anthony Black. Jalen Suggs has some potential, even though his injury history is also a question. Wendell Carter Jr. is good. They draft okay. Mo Wagner just came back too. But ideally, Desmond Bane has been good too. He's been a good addition, even though he struggled to start the season. He's playing much better now. But I do think you need them all. You need Bane, you need Paulo, you need Franz, you need Anthony Black. You need them all in order to be at their best. I feel like they've gotten past that rough patch in Orlando, and they're playing better. Memphis, man. Morant had already had all these issues. Everybody knows about the IG gun stories and his father, Morant, being a bit of a pest, always getting in shit on courtside, always having problems with people, Ja talking trash, getting suspended by the team, getting suspended by the league for detrimental behavior. The stories have been coming out about his unhappiness, and it started flooding over into locker room interviews. You do these trips and you want to have like a bonding moment. We see a lot of these road trips where you hear these stories about, this is when we really came together. We took a trip together and everybody bonded and we had team unity. I hope for the case that happens for Orlando, but I don't think that's happening right now for Memphis. I could be wrong, but it didn't start well. They're in Germany. They're doing shoot around. You have to think that they know that these reporters and the media availability is different when you do these international tours, because all of the people associated with the teams are going to be chartering together. They're going to be on the same buses. They're probably going to be walking together to the same stores. It's just a situation where you're not in your own like Xanadu palace of a gym, even though Desmond Bane is shit all over Memphis having bad facilities. But you know how it goes. Like, these teams are able to protect themselves within the organization, within the facility, and try to block out the media from finding out certain things. Well, when you're overseas and you have like your local beat guys and girls and you have your coaches, they're going to be together. They're all going to be together. They're going to probably see everything. They're going to see shoot around. They're going to see you in your makeshift locker room in the international venue, all that. All this to say, John Morant basically, he had an animated conversation with Vince Williams Jr. Everybody was arguing what it was. I've seen lip readers. I do like how ASL has now become a very big thing in sports, and especially in the NBA, because everybody talks in code. And, no one's a real lip reader, but the best version I've seen, like the most accurate version, is that John Morant was trying to instruct Vince Williams Jr., who is a backup point guard, but he's been playing sort of starters minutes with Morant when Morant is out. He was trying to show him, like, why did you leave on this screen? Because the screen hadn't gotten set yet. It was also well known, by the way, that Morant was upset with the offense Taylor Jenkins and Iasolo had put in, because there weren't a lot of screens put in, which made him have to do extra work to get past his man. And, guards love to have screens so that they can get away from their man quicker and try to get away from the double team and create all this different action. I think Ja was telling Vince Williams, hey, why did you go early before the screen was set? And I don't know if he was trying to gaslight Vince Williams, but clearly there was disagreement. Clearly. And there's a point there, and a lot of people thought they were saying, hey, I don't fuck with you like that. Like basically like do you want to have a fight? And they thought Vince Williams was saying, let's go to the back and have a fight. And John Moran was saying, I'm right here. I'm right here. But the best version I've seen, the most accurate version I've seen is him saying, look, you can't talk to me for 5 minutes about this like about how to run this offense. Like I'm right here. And Vince Williams said something like, why do you want to trade or something like that? And there was a coach or an assistant coach trying to break it up, and he did a poor job of it. I think it's just clear that there was a lot of issues there. Morant was deactivated for the game right after that happened. It is very obvious now that Morant is counting his days. I was actually shocked he was even on the bench for the Berlin game. So clearly they didn't send him home. If they sent him home, that'd have been an even bigger story. That, oh man, John Morant, he's basically got kicked off the team. He got sent from Europe all the way back to the States because he was such a problem. So I guess they wanted to avoid that much confrontation. So they're having him stay on the bench. And, all this is going on. I know that is Morant trying to tank his stock so he can get out more easily? I don't know. Is he trying to create confrontation with his teammates because he feels like he's being disenfranchised? Yes, I think that's the biggest part of it. And I think that this is his retaliation. This is his lashing out. Young players lash out like that. I really hope wherever he goes next, because I do think he'll get moved before the deadline, talking about John Morant. I really hope he finds his ability to play defense again and he dials into his athleticism again, because that's where Morant's at his greatest. And I hope that's the case wherever he goes, because I got a dumb feeling that unlike Trae Young in Washington, where he actually chose, okay, I want to go to Washington, I don't think John Morant's going to get the choice of where he wants to go. I think he's just going to get sent there and he's just going to deal with it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there'll be collaboration for where he will wind up. There's rumors everywhere. Sacramento, Milwaukee, Utah. That I don't think so, but wherever he winds up, I just hope he can find his joy. And I know that sounds like a cliche because of Jimmy Butler, and also that was something John Morant said in one of his interviews. I don't have any joy. I just want him to be happy. Clearly on this trip, it backfired. They were trying to find team unity. It backfired. I don't know if they can get past it. The trade deadline's in 2 weeks. I don't think they can get past it. I think they're going to have to hurry up to get a deal done. For the Magic, maybe this is the Kumbaya moment. We'll see in the playoffs, because their numbers are looking good from an analytics standpoint. You do wonder in the playoffs, like, if they lose in the first round again, do you really think Jamal Mosley's coming back? All right, Adam, there is one thing that we have to sidebar here. We talked about it. We've been tabling it for a couple of weeks. It has bothered me so much that I really had to actually sit down and think about it and stare out at a window, in contemplation at what the hell is wrong with college basketball.
Basketball or just all college?
College basketball.
We can lump it in.
Men's American college basketball.
Okay, I thought we can lump in some football, but we will stick exclusively.
I am not a politically progressive person, but I am a sports progressive person. I embrace change. I like change. When the transfer portal started, after they started removing the sit out years, I liked it. When NIL portal became a big thing, I was fine with it because I liked the tumultuousness. I like the coaches being forced with their millions of dollars have to work harder to recruit because that's your fucking job.
But they don't recruit now. It's not their job to recruit. It's the job of
they donor.
It's the job of the GM to say, here is your roster.
Did you know Trae Young is the GM of the Oklahoma Sooners?
Figurehead. It's the administration's job to say, here's your money. This is your team you've assembled. Mm-hmm. Go at it. There's no recruiting.
We just saw this recently with Indiana football is not a fair comparison because I think that actually the coach did a good job putting together a grown man team. But Texas Tech did this where they basically you know what? We have $25 million from donor X. We're going to spend it all on defense.
Well,
and they did a good job of it until they actually had to play a team that could stop their offense.
You could just stick with basketball and just look at this year's current Kentucky team which was all
Hmm.
NIL transfers, not doing well. Last year, Kansas had all the NIL transfer money, and their team failed because there was no cohesive team.
Yeah.
And
And NIL transfers are all lumped together. Some of them are mid-major studs because that's a new pipeline that's opened in college basketball over the past 5 years. Is that if you are a star at a smaller school, you're going to get a big payday to go to one of the power conference schools and stay there for another year instead of just going to the NBA. But now we have something that is so unrecognizable. Even I, as a progressive sports fan, say the college basketball system is broken, and that is James Nagy, who was drafted in the National Basketball Association draft, like high in the second round, who got drafted by the Hornets, technically did not play a game because he was one of those guys who kind of went overseas and he did G League forever and they just never saw it in him. And he goes and signs a big payday with Baylor. We basically are seeing the first ever trade deadline move in American college basketball by Baylor. And I just think this is a slap in the face because it's not even amateurism. It's just like, oh, so you want to be the Billy Madison of basketball? You want to go back to school?
I understand the logic to an extent. Well, if you play in any European league, you're technically a professional, therefore you're ineligible to play
That's
for
what
the.
happened to Enes Cantor. Yes.
Yeah, it was very arbitrary. Well, you signed with a youth league team, therefore you're ineligible. Then how come guys can play for overtime elite and whatnot? But to have somebody who played in the summer league all of a sudden now be cleared and have 4 years of eligibility, I don't understand how it protects anybody by giving him all 4 years after playing professionally for 3 or 4 years already.
Yeah. Now, some people are already staring at his numbers like, well, he only had 5 points and 8 rebounds. He just fucking got there. Like, if they had a whole training camp with practice where they just revolved everything around him, I'm pretty sure he would have some pretty beefy numbers. Everybody makes that joke about, like, you ever heard of that movie Joanna Man, Adam? Where
Yes.
an ex NBA player pretends to be a woman and he like dominates the W. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with like ex pros or semi pros that go back to school for a payday. That's not what I'm saying. Some of these guys are probably just okay. That's why they didn't make it in the NBA.
But
But
it's just grimy that they no fault against Baylor for signing him, but they shouldn't be looking in this avenue. It's just not good for the league. It's
and you
not
know what's
good
ironic
for.
about it is that Scott Drew was probably one of the last guys to win with basically just like undersized transfers who were not 5 stars and were not guys that played in the pros like Jared Butler. Davion Mitchell became a pro, but he wasn't when he recruited him. So like it's just a shame because like his best team ever was not a pro laden team. You know what I'm saying?
And then the NCAA, who's afraid of getting sued, and well, we let this women's basketball player play who played professionally somewhere, and
Mm-hmm.
the NCAA is just scared, and it's very disappointing.
Yeah, Mark Emmert's gone. The new head is
Charlie Baker.
Charlie Baker, who is a Republican who used to be the governor of Massachusetts. And he does have like political connections. He's able to get work done. They're trying to get this house. There's this big law called the House Settlement that they're trying to get done where there's a huge payout to players for penalties for the NCAA not paying over the years, but I don't think it's actually official yet. And breaking news, Democrats and Republicans can't agree on a federal bill. So there's no federal NIL bill. Until that happens, we're basically in the Wild West. How long is this going to keep going? My guess is probably forever because I don't think there ever will be a federal NIL bill.
No, it will change because I will bring in college football in this regard.
Okay.
Their model is not sustainable because what you have now is just capitalism at its finest. A kid should be able to
Now,
market
I,
his.
I have had arguments with friends where they say, well, what do you have against, why would you be upset about the James Nagy thing when it's just a simple fact of like, if they're employees and they're not student athletes, can't the employee just go wherever he wants? and my opinion of it is you can go wherever you want, but you can't go back to school if you're a scientist, you know?
Okay, that's another interesting point, which I will tackle first now. The unintended consequence of this essentially means any college player can play in the summer league if they want to. Since the NCAA allowed James Najee in, who played summer league for the Knicks, and was it the Knicks or because he was drafted to Charlotte?
The Hornets. It was the Hornets originally, but he may have played with others.
So he played in the summer league, period, and he was allowed to play there with no consequences. Therefore, there's nothing that you could say, well, Boogie Fland, he can go suit up for the Denver Nuggets summer league team with no consequences. So that's a very interesting thing to see if players start doing that. But just going back to the point of unsustainability, the concept of a player should be able to play and not have the school make every penny off him, and he has to be, essentially indebted to them and not get anything. All he gets is free meals and education. He should be able to get paid for his services.
Room and board, yeah.
Yeah. All it's created is just donors who are like, well, here's money. And then you have other donors doing the same thing saying, well, here's other money. And then you have the original donors going, well, you just signed a deal with us. You're supposed to, you're supposed to put the school above everything now. You're now part of the.
Yeah. And I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but there was a very recent situation involving a quarterback for the University of Washington that was very similar with a similar dilemma. It's like you signed the deal. You can't just leave for another school. That's just
the past thing. It was, here's $2 million to go come play for us. Okay, cool. I played the following year. I played pretty well. Well, this school is now offering 2.5 million. Okay, see you, school one. Whereas school one is like, the donors are like, well, you should have, you're part of this brotherhood now. You're supposed to, this is everything. The helmets, everything. What are you doing having no loyalty to us? And Troy Aikman said it. He was like, yeah, I paid a 7-figure thing, and the kid didn't even say thank you and left after a year. So you're going to have donors going, well, why am I paying out millions of dollars every year with the hope that we win? And then, you've seen with Florida and Penn State, well, we gave you, millions of dollars. All my guys just left and we lost one game. Therefore, we're out of everything. I'm done. I'm out. So that model's not sustainable.
Also, and the reason why the model is not sustainable, in my opinion, is just more of a simple thing. And yeah, capitalism's fine. Here's where I think, here's another issue, I think, and it's especially with men's sports, is that I think it's fair to say in most men's sports from year to year, because of the instability of your rosters and what players are going to be stars, it's really, really hard to predict from the beginning of the season or even before the season for sponsors and for big organizations who want to get behind an athlete, a student athlete, which ones are going to be elite players who are going to be the stars of the sport and which ones are not. The only exception is women's college basketball, because in women's college basketball, from the beginning, which ones are going to be the best players. So that's a different, and also they're more marketable because they have bigger social media followings. For men, like, a lot of people put a lot of NIL around a Penn State quarterback named Drew Allar. Well, he had a crap season and he tore his ACL. Now the best player is Fernando Mendoza. Nobody was giving sponsorships to Fernando Mendoza before the season started. It's just hard to predict in men's college sports who's going to be the star.
You have many different famous stories. You have first Jaden Rashida, who I believe signed to Arizona State, and then he was going to go to Miami, and Miami offered him money.
Caleb Love did this. He was going to go to Michigan, and he changed his mind and went to Arizona.
And then Florida said, we'll give you more money. We'll give you money to pay back the Miami guy, and here's more money. Then they reneged on the deal, so he actually sued the University of Florida.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
No, then he transferred to Georgia, where he never played.
But my whole point is, like, if you're a big institution or if you're like a sponsor and you're like, hey, can we get our return on investment if we give $2 million to this college star before the season starts, expecting that star to drive ratings? The answer is no. There is
especially like basketball is different because you can do that for freshmen, but college football. Well, okay, here's $10 million over 4 years. Well, after the first year, he's out because he thinks he could get more. There's was it Malachi Nelson?
I
Who
read
was a
this was unfounded. It never got confirmed by the school. There was a rumor that Cooper Flag got $19 million. I don't think that's true, but I do think he got
no,
paid pretty well to go there. Is what I'm going to say.
no. If the reports that AJ got 6 million to go to BYU, and that was like an all-time high,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was getting 19. If
By the way, I've been watching him. AJ DeBansa. I know this is not related to this, but DeBansa and Darren Peterson, they're not but they're two of the most polished prospects I've ever seen. They're going to go 1 and 2 easy.
oh
Now,
yeah, so
which one's going to
nobody
go 1, I don't know.
there's no way he was getting 19 million because
Mhm.
there'd be no way he would have left to take 10 million from
And then there's the
12
structure of the
million.
game, and then there's the structure of the games themselves. DeBansa has played nice. He's been a good team player. Darren Peterson's basically, I feel like playing today. He goes in, he takes all the shots, and he takes all the possessions over, and regardless of time and clock, and like, like this is a situation where you have to meet your quota, and if you sign this guy to big money and he's available, you have to give him the shots. It's very much like the NBA. The difference in the NBA is they can trade the players. You can't trade players in college basketball, and I hope that never happens.
Essentially we're slowly reaching that point as if you looked at
You
football.
really think we're going to get trades in men's college basketball?
Off season, you had the University of Tennessee and the University.
I'm about to throw this microphone out the window because like that.
But it happened with Nico leaving Tennessee to go sign with UCLA, and then the
That's
UCLA
true.
QB
That's
went to
true.
go sign with Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost happened this past year with Arizona State and Kentucky, although Sam Levitt appears to be.
Well, yeah. I
the
mean,
market's not there.
I understood that when I keep calling it the Kavanaugh decision. It wasn't the Kavanaugh. It was called the Alston case, but it was Brett Kavanaugh who wrote in the agreeing essay by the Supreme Court. The NCAA is not above the law. When he put that in there, it was basically, okay, now we have free agency in college sports. This is what we have. I understood that. And
it's not good for anything. It's not good for the sport. And that's why I don't think it could go forever, because there's no rules. Essentially, it just takes one person to say, all right, here's what I'm going to go do. And everybody sort of has to play catch up with it. And that's
where are the adults in the room? The adults are in the room. They're the ones making the deals. That's what capitalism is.
The adults are the coaches, and they're like, well, I'm just going to get fired because my team
underachieved. It creates pressure. Like Brian Kelly got fired at LSU because they put $20 million into their team through transfers, and they lost 3 games and like 3 out of 4 games. And
same thing with Penn State and Franklin, and you just have all these coaches going, well, you should have won the championship.
And to be fair to those donors and to those big wigs who run those schools, the football and the basketball are enormous investments, and if you don't get the return on investment, you have to make changes. So I actually understand that point of view. Is it ruthless with the way that coaches just up and leave like Lane Kiffin did? Let me be fair. I'm an LSU fan. I hated the way that happened.
Oh, he's a complete scumbag, and all you could do is just
now. Do I love him now that he's my coach? Yes.
But he's gonna burn you in the end.
Yeah, and
he's not going to be here for 15 years and then gracefully
there's
retire.
There's no ironclad contracts. We just saw this in coaching I wish they would do it in coaching the way they did with not necessarily the NBA. The NFL is the same. The NFL is the same. You have a coach who has a contract, and if he has free agency and you want him, you have to give up picks. This is what happens in the NBA, where they fired Tom Thibodeau and James Dolan, who's just clueless owner. He always was. He sits there and goes, oh, I can just get any coach I want. No, you can't. Because if they're under contract with those teams, they're going to want picks in return.
Exact. So where does, you have Baylor, who's now being the villains of the NCAA right now. You have other coaches calling them out, saying,
they're basically doom wishing Baylor, which is not cool because Baylor was in they had a whole Patrick Dennehy situation that really put him in the pit of despair. And Scott Drew and Kim Mulkey, who was the coach there, basically rescued the program. So that's good on them. They did a great job there, but I don't wish ill will on Baylor's like football and basketball programs or athletic programs. It's just, it was a really bad precedent to take because now everyone's going to do it after that.
Well, yeah, everybody hates you for it. And your response of, well, don't hate me, hate the system. Well, everyone is sort of hating the system.
Yeah.
And you're just saying you exploited the system. But like we saw with Lane Kiffin in Washington, there's a slow backlash coming, and then you can't sign too late. What they should just do is just have a literal off season. Have it after every game. Don't do it in the middle of the playoffs where you have starting.
That's what football tried to do. They made it 10 days.
Well, they did 10 days, and they also push it back. But you still have players going, well, I'm going to go, so I'm not going to play in it. Mm-hmm. And you've killed all these tournaments. You've killed the NIT and for college basketball.
They even killed like the Feast Week tournaments because now they have an NIL centric tournament called the Players Era Festival.
Yeah.
Where everybody goes there. No one goes to all the other places.
Everybody's playing in like a hotel in front of 12 people.
It's a joke. Yep.
So where do they go from here?
A brand new tournament that doesn't involve the NCAA at all, that's sponsored by a completely different network. And if the NCAA can't rescue themselves with Charlie Baker and it gets abolished, I'm talking about 20 years down the line. I'm not talking about like in recent.
All you're doing essentially is just hurting. I don't understand you're punishing the American kids. So you can have a player who played pro in Europe for 3 years and he can come as a freshman. But if you have somebody who goes to junior college, that counts 2 years against their stuff.
You were absolutely right about something you said earlier. The fear of lawsuits, like this happens every time. Every time they declare someone ineligible in any sport, baseball, football, basketball, lacrosse, doesn't matter. They immediately threaten to sue and they immediately back down. Like that's what the NCAA has had a history of doing in the last 5 years since the Alston's decision. So it's like they know they're going to get their way, because they don't want a lawsuit, and that's the reality of it. But there's just funny how they go from a federal bill. There has to be some either state bills that are in line with the
not
same.
A real federal bill. Just you bring in like a GM saying, here's the set rules. Here's what we're all going by. And everyone just agrees with it.
But that was what the House settlement was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a cap. But the states can't agree on the caps.
Well, that's just too much. You just see the NCAA going, we have NIL, but the contracts have to be enforceable. You can't just have kids transferring 5 years in a row. Yeah. Every team gets complete college basketball. Every mid-major.
Well, what if they just had the new version of the sit-out rule, which is the no compete?
Well, that's what it should be. Is okay. You get one transfer free. Mm-hmm. Okay, first you have to play out the year of your deal. You can't just be like, I'm done, I'm quitting.
That's what the NBA and the NFL has. MLB has arbitration. NFL has a franchise tag. NBA has the mid-level exception. They have these things in place because it's collectively bargained.
Like, okay, first transfer's free. The second time you have to play for 2 years. Your contract has to be 2 years. Mm-hmm. And if you can't do the 2 years, you have to sit out the second year. Then you get another transfer. Then, you're a fifth-year senior. You could transfer anyways. So, okay, you get three over 5 years, not 5 over 5 years. That's a little. And yes, we're into it, and all these unintended consequences of, well, now we can play these players legally as opposed to just bringing duffel bags in the back of everything. And what do you mean? Again, it comes down to, what do you mean these kids don't have loyalty? What do you mean my $2 million is no different than their $2 million? Kid doesn't see that. He doesn't care.
And to finish up, let's be clear about this too. All these people have this idea of like every player that's involved in these portals, their goal in mind is to be a professional and play in the NBA or Major League Baseball or in the National Football League. In the back of their mind, yeah, that's their dream. But there's a lot of what I call Van Wilders out there who know my peak is in college. I don't have my professional pursuits are limited, and this is where I am. They just had a player, and I know him because he played at LSU. He was a quarterback named TJ Finley. He's transferring to his 7th school.
Yeah.
His 7th. You usually don't get 7 years of eligibility, let alone 7 schools.
And who was the Miami coach who just quit basketball?
That was Jim Larinaga.
Yeah, who said, I went to the Final Four and I had my entire bench all transfer out.
Mm-hmm, because you know why? They had all been paid for 1 year by a booster, and once the money was up, they left.
Yeah, but there's no why. it's sad. All the boosters are like, yeah, we can now pay for people. That's awesome. But all
Mhm.
they did was just cheapen their
The
brand.
same
There is no
with
brand
Tony
loyalty.
Bennett. I mean, the first one was Roy Williams. Roy Williams was told by Dameron Sharp, "I'm going to the NBA," and Walker Kessler, "I'm transferring to Auburn," and he couldn't take it. He was like, What happened to the game that I love?" And he quit. He quit right on the spot. Tony Bennett quit, but that wasn't surprising. There'll be more. There'll be more of these people that are like, you know what, I can't. I'm done with it. Jeff Hafley, who was a coach at Boston College, and now he's coaching for the Packers, because he was just like, I'm done with this shit. But it's a lot of pressure for coaches, but they do make a lot of money to make big decisions. So I don't actually feel that bad for them, to be very honest with you. But
And
yeah,
that's why you need the Lane Kiffin to be like, yeah, I'll be a scumbag. I don't care.
you need a
You
heel
pay me,
sometimes.
I'll win.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
heels in this scenario. I understand. We need more baby faces. The only baby faces are the women's college basketball stars that wind up getting big paydays because they actually are good, and they wind up being the star players on their teams with commercials already made for them. Not Caitlin Clark, to be honest, that was a unicorn. Like, I think Caitlin Clark legitimately is bigger than women's basketball. She's bigger than the WNBA. I don't say that
Well,
often.
they all had to take pay cuts to go to the
Like,
WNBA.
was Michael Jordan bigger than the NBA when he started? No. Once he got to the end of his career, yes. But Clark is one of the exceptions, like where she's bigger than the sport. You know, Hulk Hogan and Steve Austin were the same in wrestling. They were bigger than wrestling. They were bigger than the WWF. You
All
know,
right.
so.
Okay.
But
Sounds
yeah,
good.
we just had to get that off of our chest because, you know, I'm not trying to be the old man yelling at cloud, but the James Najee thing, it wasn't that it was stunning. There's also the real test is coming up because there's another player who is seriously considering the same thing named Trenton Flowers. Here's the difference. Trenton Flowers actually played in NBA games for the Chicago Bulls.
And that was funny. Is there like, we're not, that was
Like,
this is where I'm
is he
drawing the
like, is
line.
Flowers really gonna do it? Like, if he gets the offer for like whatever
No,
millions of dollars,
this was the one. The NCAA was like, nope, this is the line you can't cross. We're
right?
afraid of getting sued for everything, but like, it's just,
It's sad.
it's sad. That's a point we agree on. All right. Thank you. So, all right. That puts an end to this episode. For Andrew Reich, I am Adam Murray. Have a good one. See y'all.